board, after taking care of most of the environmental issues for the park, was presented in September of 2020, so just a few months ago, and that gave us the permission to move forward into construction documents. The mitigated negative declaration was completed in October, and we're at today's meeting, or excuse me, we had a meeting in October of 2020, again with the Recreation Council to give them a quick update, and then we're here today to present. And these were some of the series of meetings that we went through, identifying elements of the park and doing some exercises and getting feedback from community members at those 5 or 6 meetings. All of that culminated into a general development plan. And this is the current design for the park. This is we talked about doing a phase 1 and phase 2, and this is your phase line. So the east portion of the park is phase 1 and the west portion of the park is phase 2. The overall park design has a large turf field for multi-use soccer events. There's a amphitheater and main plaza with playground. And as you go up the slope, there's the skate park at the top of the slope. There's about a 30 to 35 foot elevation change across the entire park. So there is a lot of elevation change that we're dealing with. And so we've structured this in terraces that capture a lot of the views that look out over San Ysidro, over out to the ocean, and obviously south into Mexico and some of those views. In fact, that you can see behind me on my screen is a picture from the park looking out towards south towards Mexico. Some of the elements that we have to start with are buildings and picnic structures. There's a restroom here and 2 shade structures at our main plaza and 2 other picnic shade structures out along the perimeter that provide views to the west, as well as functional space within the large turf area. Our current design is reflective of the shade structure pictures here. This is what we had settled on within the general development plan, but we're also open to some discussion and input from the community as to whether or not a open trellis rather than a solid roof that provides cover would be more beneficial or desired. A large metal structure with fabric, or the new style of tension structure that is more of a flag style, or go back to the traditional metal structure. Some of the restroom building, comfort station is earth tone, has 5 stalls, 1 handicap, and 4 standard stalls, drinking fountain, and excuse me, washroom. And it's done in earth tones to sort of meet and match some of the general colors and textures of the open space that we're building within. And so those are some of the ideas there. And I will ask if there's any questions. Now's the time to raise your hand. And if you have any general input on the shade or the restroom, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll get to that. But if not, I will continue on with the rest of the presentation. And I don't see anyone jumping up just yet, so we'll keep going. So the next item, and hopefully we get some participation on this one, is the skate park. I am not a professional skate park or skater, but we do have a semi-professional skate park skater on our staff who does all of our skate park design in-house. That's Eric Sanders. Some of you on the phone or on the presentation may know him in the community. He's been here for 20-some years and has been a skater since his youth, and has skated in many of the facilities. This is a project that we actually did for the city of San Diego in Linda Vista that Eric helped design. And some of the elements that we want you to think of is, what are the features that you want at the skate park? Currently, we are designing a flow bowl that looks similar to this. A ditch run. We've incorporated skatable art features. This is a project that we did in Otay Mesa area. that was reflective to the community identity. And we created and turned it into an art piece within the middle of the skate plaza that students or that kids can skate on, but it's also reflective of the community identity itself. Stairs and ramps, a mogul pump track. We've done a pump track for the city before. It was very very heavily used, and so one of the ideas was to incorporate a pump track of sorts at this particular facility as well. Incorporate spectator seating so that there's plenty of shade and rest points for the users. And this is actually Eric here on these bottom two at the feature bank testing out what he designed. And the grind ledge and Euro gap. So those are just a few elements within the skate park that we have currently looked at including in the skate design. And I see we have Susie Murphy with her hand up. If she wants to interject with a question.
Hi, let me put my video on. Thanks so much for doing this. Happy to be here. I'm Susie Murphy. I'm the executive director of the San Diego Mountain Biking Association. I live in Chula Vista, so know the area well here. Also been working on adjacent, hopefully future trails in the area in the open space, which would be awesome for everybody in the community as well. I know it's a bit ahead of the game to get into operations, but I'm just wondering, and all the Parks and Rec people here will know with the success of Pacific Highlands Ranch Pump Track, which is basically now open to all wheels. I'm just wondering if this park will have the ability for people on bikes and scooters to be able to use it as well, because I'm sure there's many people that live in the area that would want to use those kind of things as well. Thanks.
Looks like we have Martha with her hand up.
Did you want to answer the questions later?
I'm not sure that I can actually answer that question. Manny, are you able to answer that question specifically? I know that in some cases, the skate parks are skaters only, and in other cases, they are open to multiple all-wheel or most wheel type users. And so we're able to design it either way. It's really a decision of the city and how they want to maintain and manage that. So I don't know if Manny wants to be unmuted and he can provide any input on that or not.
I'm not familiar with what's going on with Pacific Highlands Ranch, but for the skate parks that are in our district, it is primarily for skateboarders. I know that there's been issues in the past with commingling of different types of wheeled elements, and so I think now is the time to start looking at a design that incorporates multiple elements if that's the direction that the community wants. But I wouldn't be able to specifically answer at this point.
We're happy at our office to take any just bigger questions. We're here to chat about Beyer Park, so I want to stay focused and just remind people, if you guys have any recommendations for this particular park, please raise your hand.
It looks like we have Isabel with her hand up. Isabel, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay. Did I
You're
do that now? Okay. I don't know if you can see me or not, but I just wanted to say that as a parent of a skater, I really appreciate the fact that this is on here now, that this is a goal. And I personally feel that the skating community deserves it to be a skater community. Like, I know the person from the parks or something from somewhere else was mentioning all kinds of other wheels, but I think these kids are long due for somewhere where they can do this. I guess I'm just advocating for them as just the skating community park that they should have, because lives have been lost and they have to travel to all other areas of San Diego to be able to enjoy what they want to be able to enjoy, which is skating. And it's a great opportunity to keep them off the streets. It leads to so many other things. So I, for one, would just like to say that I personally think that that this should be just for them. I mean,
Okay,
I've
thank you.
seen how it affects and impacts a lot of their lives. So
Great, thank you for your input. Lisa Cuestas.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. One of my questions are all these elements being incorporated or already considered for the design, or is
Yes,
there-
all of what you saw in the presentation are currently in the design as we stand. We are at what would be considered 60% construction documents. So if we want to add, change, maneuver things around a little bit, now's the time to do that. And that's why we're here at the community again with the council member to get some last minute input and make whatever minor adjustments to meet the community's desires.
Yeah, but I meant like, so all the pictures that we're seeing of the different elements of the park, all of those are in the existing skate park, or?
So they're in the current design for this skate park. So currently there is a flow bowl, a ditch run, stair ramps, skatable art feature. Wouldn't look like this, but there is a element of skatable art, a mogul pump track.
Okay.
There is spectator seating. There are feature bank type things, so it won't look exactly like this, but it'll be similar for the Beyer Park project. And there are grind ledges and other elements that are these types of structures that are already planned for the skate park itself. What we'd like to hear from is the skaters to say, does this meet your needs? Do you like this? What else would you like to see? And we'll see if we can make some minor adjustments as we move forward with the design.
Okay, and just to take advantage of my second point that I can squeeze in is that as somebody who's worked in San Ysidro for over 20 years, we really would just want to advocate for as many trees as possible, including fruit trees. We want to see this park be an example of park design that really tries to address our heavy climate goals as a city and a county as much as possible, wherever possible. And I would recommend that somehow we do try to incorporate the suggestions that are in the chat. If somehow in these meetings, given they're so time restricted and not everybody is super savvy or super willing to unmute and say and speak out loud, to be able to incorporate as much as possible what is shared in chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Mariano.
Hi, I'm a longtime community member here in San Ysidro. I've been skating since I was a teenager. Although when I say skating, I mean inline skating. I tend to really like the idea of the pump track. I regularly drive up north to go to the Pacific Highlands pump track. I'll also drive to like Coronado or IB to use the skate parks there. So a mixed use facility here in San Ysidro would be great. Pump track is great because it's good for older people like me. I'm already in my late 30s, so I can't jump as high as I used to. I can't hit the rails like I used to when I was a teenager. But the pump track will give me a lot of exercise, and it's a pretty exciting opportunity there. I don't know if it's been considered, but I've seen a lot of skate plazas and skate parks, just, nice big flat area where kids can do like games of skate and things like that. That would be a good option. And then zoning the skate park, right, where you have kind of like a beginner's section versus a more advanced section. That way you don't have kids maybe crossing in front of skaters that are a little more advanced. That way you kind of take into account, lines of approach and things.
That's correct. And those are some of the things that Eric, who again, I introduced as our expert in-house skater, takes into account as he's laying out these skate park designs. So this isn't the final design, but this was just a early schematic that's shown here on the left for this particular park. But we will definitely take those items into play, and Eric will be making sure that there are elements for the new beginner up to the seasoned skater, and that they're safely positioned so that everyone has a chance and a location to practice their skills. Let's see, I don't see any other hands, and so I'm going to continue to move on to the children's play and main plaza area. So this is our large children's play area with a 2 to 5 and a 5 to 12 designated side, with picnicking and plaza space that overlooks not only the large turf area to the west, but overlooks the playground area to the east. And then we have a switchback ramp walking system that takes you up to the entry plaza to the skate park. And halfway up, we have what we're calling a natural play seating area that's off to the side within the existing native habitat, so that you've got a sort of like a campfire ring area for the kids to go to, and maybe the YMCA or Boys Club, Girls Club could use that as a designated meeting space for outdoor events and those kinds of things. As far as within the playground area, be thinking about this as I'm presenting. What types of equipment, features, materials would you like to have included for the best playground experience? And some of the things that I'm going to be showing you are things that are either in the design or we intend to incorporate in the design. We just finished our geotechnical testing on the site, and during the boring and trenching operation, there were some fossils that were discovered, and one of those fossils was part of a mastodon skull. And so we're thinking of ways that maybe we can incorporate a fossil dig or some other type of art component within the playground area. And this is an example of a fossil that was manufactured but could be buried in the sand area. And then down here at the bottom is a park in a different community where they took a dinosaur theme and created a piece of playground equipment. I don't know that we'll have the ability to actually create a mastodon skull to play on, but we can definitely provide education and art within the playground that resembles and provides information about the fossils and other things that we've discovered actually on our site, and that happened to be right at the playground area. Some other things, because we have such a large slope and elevation change to deal with, is a climbing wall. This is a climbing wall that our office did for another park up in Orange County, in Riverside County, excuse me, and it's been very popular, and we want to incorporate something similar to this on this project. And our thought here is that we could actually incorporate some dinosaur bones and some other fossils within the climbing wall, again, to bring back that archaeology that was discovered on the site. And other things that we can do to take advantage of the slope are slides that go down the slope, or ropes courses that you can traverse up and down the slope, providing shade and different types of park amenities. This is a ropes, nets, climbers type equipment in style. This is your more traditional style, but with the traditional style, we're able to incorporate panels and banners that, again, bring some of the history and heritage of the park itself and of the site. We've got trails that go into open space, and can we provide some educational information that talks about the animals and the plants that are within that plant community that surrounds the park, that goes into the open space. And do we incorporate natural play? These are a couple of projects on the right that we've completed, where we on the lower one, we actually took timbers, eucalyptus trees from the park itself at Choyas Lake Park, and repurpose them in the playground to be a natural play element. On the top is Savita Park that recently opened, and again, we were able to repurpose a redwood tree that came down from Balboa Park and bring it to Savita Park and reuse it within our playgrounds as well. And then just the idea of the different surfacing types, where we've got engineered wood fiber, sand, and then obviously resilient rubber to provide accessible access to all play environments, and just defining different types of nature play. And then finally, the little breakout nature area that we were talking about is more like your campfire area. It's not necessarily a playground, but it provides more of a natural setting for student play. With that, I want to open it up to questions. Do we have anyone with their hand up? Let's see, I've got Serena Vega.
Unmute. Okay. Hi, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
My name is Serena and I'm with Casa Familiar. And I had a question. I couldn't find out how to raise my hand earlier. So I wanted to ask, can you speak to some of the shade structure features, the pros and cons of each? And
Certainly.
thank you. And I also really agree with the nature play concept. And I think that's really great to think about. So thank you.
Say that one more time.
I think nature play is really important to be incorporated into the park design for.
Wonderful. So as going backwards real quickly for the shade structures, what we currently have is a steel shade structure with a solid roof to provide shade during the hot summer sun, and will allow picnickers to be out there on a cool day where there might be a little rain or drizzle or what have you. What we've chosen right now is more of a metal and wood, trying to blend to some of the native habitat and identity of the area, rather than making this an urban park. It's really out in the open space at the edge. And so that was some of the reasons why we've selected the materials that we've selected at this point. We did choose to go with a solid roof to provide relief from the sun. But if the preference is we want filtered sun, filtered shade, then we can open the roof up and go with an open roof style. Some of the other shade structures that I showed were the tensile structures, which is a fabric. So again, that provides some change or some protection from the weather, but just gives it a different look. Typically, the shade structures that are the tensile type with the fabric tend to be more urban style. And again, we're trying to keep this a little bit more organic, but we're open to what the community would like to have and would like to see. And so if we get input to go to a different style, we will be looking at that as we progress through the rest of the design.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And hey everybody, this is Darren. I just wanted to add on to what Jeff said, that I think, we do want to keep everything tied together design-wise, but there are potentially opportunities for having a combination of different types of shade structures as well. You have the 4 picnic shelters around the park that are probably more of those formal structures, but then in the play area, the skate park, we have opportunities to use different materials if they make more sense, or if the community is interested in some of the other images that were shared earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Mariano.
I wanted to go back to the shading structures, but for playgrounds, right? So a lot of shading structures that I've seen in playgrounds are really useful. Obviously, we get a lot of sun here, and I've got a lot of fond memories of burning my butt on hot metal slides when I was a child. So if those could be incorporated into the playground to let kids play without, touching hot surfaces, that would be great.
Yeah, so we have 2 different styles that we're looking at right now. This is a large tensile structure that goes over the play. One of the things with play that it's hard to do your traditional metal roof type thing, because you've got to get it up in the air so high. And so we've been going to these larger tensile structures. This was at Ysidro Park. And then we also are starting to incorporate those types of tensile structures, but with more of a tube frame that is built into the structure itself. And so we'll be looking and exploring both of those styles. And it really depends on whether or not we go with a traditional play that has the taller post that we can put a shade topper on versus the more tubular style and net style that don't allow you to attach the shade to the structure itself. And then that's typically when we go with the independent shade over the top. So we will be looking at that to make sure that the playground is safe for use.
Yeah, that's great. Another great feature I like in playgrounds is the ones that incorporate hills. So, bars and that, or slides that come down the hill. Kids usually love those. I've gotten to see some around the country, and those tend to be highly trafficked by kids just because they love going up and down hills. So
Definitely.
pointing that out.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands up at this point. We'll continue forward to our amphitheater gathering space. So I've been monitoring the chat, and this is now going to answer your question about whether or not we can have a stage. We actually do have a stage that's been defined, and it's an amphitheater seating area that's located here below the main plaza. And the idea is right now that the setup would be down on the turf area, and we've got a series of seat walls that terrace up the slope with a ramp that goes through the middle of that. And so it would look similar to this picture here. And again, trying to blend this into the environment that's there. And working with the geology of the site. I'm going to actually go forward one and then go back. We in the development of the project, we have a landslide, and we also have a fault line that runs through the park. And so one of the themes that we wanted to capture from an education standpoint on this site is geology, and creating a plaza at the level of the playground that would give some history to the geology of the park and of San Ysidro and the southern portion of San Diego, that pays homage to the landslide and to the fault line that runs through the park itself, and educate users of the park about the San Ysidro slide and the San Ysidro fault. And these are just some examples of how we could potentially do that within the courtyard space, utilizing various forms and materials, as well as providing your traditional signage that would be that educational panel. So we can introduce that into that stage area. But if I go back to our enlarged plan, that would happen in this main plaza that's flanked by the picnic areas. But then as we terrace down the slope, the idea of terracing down the slope would pick up these sedimentary walls that pick up the geology, some of the escarpments that are present based on knowing where that fault line is, and try to replicate that and provide some imagery for that within the site. And that would terrace down to a lower seat wall and a little bit larger concrete plaza space here that you could set up for a small event, or spill all the way out into the turf area for a larger event. If you want to do movies in the park or some other type of cultural heritage day with dancers or those kinds of things, you could set up a small stage out here on the turf, and then this would be your built-in amphitheater for function and use. So I'll open that up for any questions. I don't see any, so I will move forward. One more element that we are incorporating.
Sorry, Jeff, there's one hand.
Okay. Looks like we've got Melly.
Hi, this is all great. I couldn't agree more with all the kits and plans just in general. I wanted to see that there's a huge flow of people when like pre-COVID or when the schools are in session. And I just wanted to ask if, I'm sure maybe it's been considered, but the slope of the current sidewalks, or like the East Beyer side of things, is really steep. So I just wanted to ask if it had been considered for like older folks and like seniors, if there's going to be like, perhaps it's really hard to see from like the image, but if there's going to be like a surrounding kind of like a track or like a perimeter where people can just walk around, and not only for seniors, but with people with like disabilities, and how accessible I'm not able to see here exactly where the entrances would be, or like walking pathways into the park that people can access them, as we know from where I see it right here, where the letters are from like landslide limit, that's where the old Beyer Elementary entry used to be, which it used to be a parking lot or a small entry way. So I'm just wondering, I'm sure you've thought about it, but the current slope of the even to get as just from like a quick view here, which is I'm assuming the like the top middle is like the entrance of it, which is already kind of like up high, and there's a bunch of apartments instead of like folks that are in the very steep hill of it. I'm just wondering if this has been considered more of like the people that will walk into the park rather than to drive to. And just considering like the accessibility of it, and you know, not necessarily for kids or people that just want to walk or like do their little like rounds of like walking. I think the most immediate park to go to would be like Casa Familiar, and there's not really like, you know, like a large block to walk around without like crossing a street or waiting for the trolley. Something like Iris Park, where right in that intersection underneath the 905, where there's, you know, the basketball courts, and there's like a little bit of a like a circular path, if that makes sense, for like people to do their little walking, things like that. So I'm sure you've probably considered it, and I'm not sure if the perimeter of the green area in this image that you have is somewhat of like a walking path, or but just considering that just the access to get to, and that this is such a steep hill, that I'm just a little concerned for like the older. I mean, it's great for the kids because there's tons of kids in the area, and you know, it must be really hard with COVID, and people have to drive places to go for an open space. But so just asking if that's considered like the older population, and also people with like disabilities.
Okay, so
Thank you.
long question, but I'll try to answer it briefly. So yes, we have considered that. But before I get into the entire response, please remember that we are really concentrating today on phase one. And so I put this blue line through the site again that was reflective of when I started the presentation, that currently we are looking at this eastern half of the park that's being developed in phase one. And then in the future, we'll be getting to phase two. Darren may be able to jump in and give an idea of when phase two is coming along. I don't know when that is, but holistically, when the entire park is built, there will be two access points into the park, one off of Delaney Court and one off of Enright Drive. And they both go into this group of parking lots that is the entry into the park itself. The main entrance is off of Enright Drive. That takes you to a drop-off and walkway system. And this walkway that goes all the way around the turf area is level. So it's less than 2%. There may be a couple of areas that climb to up to 4.5%, but it's still a walkable area, no ramps, no hindrances. And so this is the intended walking, jogging path around the soccer multi-use field that is accessible to everyone walking in off of Enright Drive, because that's a level access point into the park. There's no ramping system. If you are from the Delaney Drive group, or you come up Beyer Park and decide to come through Delaney because it's a faster walk, you will be at a lower area, but we do have a ramp that gets you back up to here again. That's ADA accessible, and so it is accessible by someone in a wheelchair or just elderly in the community that want to walk to the park rather than drive to the park. As far as phase one has, as I mentioned before, about a 30 or so elevation change associated with it, and we've terraced that into the lower plaza, the mid plaza, and the upper plaza. The upper plaza being the skate park, the mid plaza being the playground, and the lower plaza being your amphitheater seating. And there's a walkable ramp that traverses all the way around up the slope. Some of it is at 4.5%, so there's no handrails. It's an easy walk. Some of it is up to 8% or 7.5%. which is a typical ramp. But again, it's all accessible to everyone that wants to be able to walk through the park. And that's a requirement that we have in maintaining and making sure that it is as level as possible. But unfortunately, phase 1 is being built on the slope, and phase 2 is more of your level area. And so there will be that lower path. As far as trail systems, there was a couple of questions in yours and previously about connecting to trails. So there are trails that traverse through the site that are existing that we're connecting to off the access road to the skate park here on the north side. Also from the skate park to the south side connects to trail systems that then take you out into the open space. And then we have our own inner loop trail system that traverses more on this western side up to the top of slope and gives you that view over the old elementary school site and down into San Ysidro. So hopefully that answered your questions in regards to that.
And Jeff, I wanted to add, I know when we were going through the community input process for the general development plan, there was community comments to provide a track where people could sort of do their exercise walking around the ball fields. And from what I recall, that loop that goes around the ball fields is about a 1/3 mile. So we talked about potentially putting some markers along that walkway so that people can sort of track, 3 loops and get their mile in as well. And then there are these other DG trails that are more natural to provide a different experience for people that sort of want to get off the main path as well. Thanks.
It's something we're not going to talk about, but just because we're sort of going over the entire park at this point, there is a dog park down here at the very southern edge of the park. We're not going to get into that specifically because it's not part of phase 1 construction. But overall, the bigger elements have to do with the skate park, the playground, the amphitheater, and plaza space. Some of your sports and exercise are all happening in phase 1, as well as the main parking along Delaney and Enright will be constructed in phase 1. And then phase 2 will add the large turf area, additional parking, and shade structures, picnic areas along the west, and the dog park down at the south. And just real quick to identify the sports type of information, we're looking at a basketball court and a fitness node. Basketball court is here, fitness node is directly across from the basketball, so that all of those kinds of things happen in one location. The idea is that you can use the track as a jogging or walking space, and then you can take a pause at the fitness node basketball area and do some exercise, and then take another loop around, or however you want to use those elements within the park. And then lastly, is what kinds of themes, messages, public art, how would you like to express the identity of your community? And here's just a few things that our company has worked on in the past. This is the entry gateway at Solana Beach Coastal Rail Trail. This is Savita Park, where we worked with an artist and created sort of the story and heritage of the original landowners of the mine. And this is supposed to be a story of who they are, but told through them as a rabbit family. And then at Camino Ruiz Park, we actually in-house, we worked with 2 local artists on the first 2 examples. On the third example, this was actually art that we created in the office that we designed ourselves, giving homage and heritage back to the Kumeyaay Indians based on what they did and how they operated within the plateau of where this park was built. And this happens to be a solstice clock, and so the sun rays go through the two stanchions here and end up defining on this back seat wall whether it's the summer solstice or winter solstice. So there's things that we can do to create art elements that are part of the culture and community itself and reflective in the park. And these are a couple of other projects that we've worked on. Again, an artist at Briarcrest Park in La Mesa with this large butterfly. And then this was another another element that we did out at Camino Ruiz, where we told the story of the existing birds that are within the community. And this is a bird nest. This was a fun project. I actually got to help build this. We took some of the existing plant material that had to be taken out to make the park itself. And I personally got to go out and push those branches into the concrete with the contractor to create this manufactured nest theme. And these were split eggs to represent the birds and the eggs, and just tells the story of the bird population within this park. I think that is it. So with that, I will open it up for some more questions on it. Not only how would you like to integrate public art ideas into the park and capture that community heritage, but just general questions for the presentation overall. Like we have Herman. You can unmute. There you go.
Hi, good morning. Just a quick question. Is there any idea about getting like or is it possible to get like a water spout or something of that in the children's playground?
Meaning drinking fountains?
No, like
or water play.
Yeah, like water, like a splash. I've seen another
Splash
park.
pad. Yeah. All right, we will take that in under advisement and discuss that. Any other questions from you, Herman?
No, that's it.
Okay, let's go to Mariano.
Hi, so it's kind of hard to tell, but I can't see if there's a direct path from the skate park to the restrooms. So like usually when you're skating, kids or even older adults, you're really into it. So suddenly you realize you have to go. Is there going to be an easy direct path there to get to it?
So let's see if I've got enough information here. Not on that one. So we'll just have to just go to the large one. So the most direct path, able-bodied, down the stairs, around the loop, down the stairs, and over to the restroom. If you don't want to take the stairs, or you're in a wheelchair, you've got the loop that takes you straight down around the loop of the playground, down the switchback ramp, and over to the restroom. But
Right,
that's the straightest that we can get you to the restroom from the skate park. Alternatively, you could take the maintenance access road, which is blocked off here from vehicles. So it is a pedestrian access path from the parking lot that you could come straight down here through the walkway and over to the restroom as well.
All right, it's a little hard to visualize from the 2D image, but okay, that seems accessible. Although I'm sure kids are just going to cut through the grass anyways.
Well, it's a pretty steep
path.
slope, so they probably won't necessarily cut through. And in order to try to mitigate that happening, we do have small fences that are lined on this pathway. So you'd have to jump the fence. I mean, obviously the kids are able-bodied and can do that, but we're trying to provide safe and controlled access around the switchback as you head back through. But again, if it's a able-bodied kid that's skating and they want to go to the restroom, they're going to run down the stairs, straight down to the main plaza, straight across to the restroom.
All right, and will there be any water fountains by the skate park, just to keep people hydrated throughout the day?
Yes, there will. There'll be a water
Okay.
fountain. We haven't defined where that's going yet, but there will be a drinking fountain up by the skate park. There's a drinking fountain over here by the play. And then I believe there's another drinking fountain over here at the dog park. So we've got 3 or 4 different locations around the park itself.
That's
Jeff,
it for me.
if I may interject, we have a lot of community leaders on this Zoom right now. And for record keeping, we're recording this presentation. But remember that the chats do not go record, they don't show up. So in the future, we want to make sure that the people know exactly what your opinion is, what you're thinking. So a lot of the people on the chat, if you don't mind coming on, and you don't have to turn on your camera, just unmute yourself and let us know. And I really want to call on, and I said, we have some amazing leaders here. We have Miss Magdalena Pulam, and we have Mr. Friedman. We also have Rudy Lopez here. So I really stand, great community leader. So if you guys don't mind, please, this is the time, this is the place to have your ideas heard. So please raise your hand or turn on your video and let us know what you're thinking.
Ms. Moreno, I'm happy to go through the chat and read off the questions and comments that have been provided if you'd like me to, but I want to be sensitive to the amount of time that we have as well.
Looks like we got a few hands. I'm going to unmute Mr. Rudy Lopez.
Thank you. I feel like since I got called out by the council member, I should at least say what I had put in the chat. When we're talking about themes as far as public art and other things, San Ysidro was founded as a farming community. So I think that implementing something in the terms of farming would be nice. I do like, and my son does like also the natural play and integrating the fossils and anything of that nature. Also, I don't know if it was this. I know there's a couple of phases, but I think something that I've heard, and even we did a process with the school district this past week for the Beyer elementary site, which is just down the street, and several people mentioned the idea of dog parks. So I don't know if that's going to be an element that's going to be integrated in the future.
Yeah, so
Thank
I
you.
mentioned before the very southern portion where it's a tan color. That is a dog park. Half of it is small dogs, half of it is large dogs. And it's actually split more like 3/5 large, 2/5 small. And it's a fairly large area. It's almost an acre or a little over an acre dedicated to the dogs.
That's great. My Great Dane will appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, next we have Mr. Michael Friedman. I'll unmute you now.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Go
Okay,
right ahead.
good. Just quickly, in regards to public art, I think maybe we might want to involve the San Ysidro School District and get the students in the school district involved in developing what they feel would be good for art projects here, as well as why not contact the San Ysidro High School for the high school students as well. See if we can get them involved also.
Okay. I'll let Darren interject, but I believe this is a public art site that a certain amount of funds is dedicated to that. And so our office won't actually do the art component, but we will be involved, but the city will be hiring an independent public artist to implement public art within the park. Our desire is to coordinate with that department from the city and the selected artist and coordinate that public art with the community and with the park itself so that it's integrated art, much like some of the art elements that I showed you before, rather than just a piece of art that we call public art brought into the park and we put a pedestal somewhere and display a piece of art. So our desire is to always have it incorporated and make it part of the park and culture and heritage. So I think that's great, bringing in the schools and other public entities to work with whoever the selected artist is to implement that on the site.
Yeah, that's correct, Jeff. The project is required to install a public art component, and there's a certain amount of the project budget set aside for that. And that has its own community input process. So in the next few months, actually, the Public Arts Commission is taking the lead on that process, but we'll be working with the community to come up with those themes and work with the artist that's selected to develop that art feature. But I think we also have opportunities on this project to incorporate art in different ways. Like you've seen some of the images that Jeff shared earlier on other projects that Schmidt's worked on, where we can build art into the actual site itself and reflect, the Kumeyaay history and you guys want reflected in the site design. So I think there's going to be different ways we're going to try to incorporate art into this project to provide as much opportunities for art, public art in this facility as possible. Thanks.
We have a hand up I see from Miss Jacobo. I'll ask, you have to unmute yourself. You have the permission to.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes? Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Well, I have to applaud. This is beautiful. I couldn't imagine this is coming. Thank you so much. My concern was lighting in the evenings. Will you have enough lighting?
Yes, we have a comprehensive lighting program, so there'll be full lighting around all of the walkways that are the main walkway around the lower portion of the park. There will also be lighting at the playground and up the, I'm sorry. That's what happens when you're at home.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry about that. Lighting,
That's
so
all right.
there'll be lighting going up the switchback walkway to the skate park. That is all general lighting, as well as lighting at the dog park. And then in addition to that, there will be sports lighting that lights the lower field and lighting at the skate park as well for skate use in the evening.
Excellent. Now, what about safety? Homeless or, I don't know, how will that be? Will we have someone in security or something like that?
Darren would have to speak to that. I'm not sure if there's going to be cameras or other types of security elements built into the site. That has not been part of our scope at this point. But just in general design, we have designed the park so that there are sight lines coming into the park off of Enright Drive. The restroom was placed in a location where you can see the restroom as you drive in if you're the local police driving through the parking lot. We've got some openings in the trees as you come through that give you, again, a clear view of the lower turf area. And then we tried not to put too much taller elements in some of these sight lines as you head up to the skate park and the children's play again. So you've got those open areas of view so that there's not places where people can hide or congregate.
Right.
And so those and so those were the elements that we looked at from a design standpoint that is reflected in the design, but specific security, hiring a security officer beyond local police driving through on their particular schedule, that has not been part of what we would manage, but I'm not sure where that's at with Manny or Darren.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think what Jeff said is correct. So we've considered safety and security in the design of the project through providing access for police to patrol those parking lots and circle through from Enright and Delaney, as well as preserving sight lines into the play areas and things like this. Security lighting is also a component that was added in during the community input phase. But as far as hiring security or any additional surveillance type cameras, that would be an operational item for Park and Rec. Manny, if you want to speak to that. So I think that's something that Park and Rec can look at and work with Councilmember Moreno if it's needed. You know, once we get this park open, if there's an issue where additional security measures are required, then they could look into what could be done.
I'm sorry, I think I'm unmuted now. So typically we have staff that we rely on activation of the park to ensure security, and so you know, staff will visit the park as a what is essentially a neighborhood park, since it's not a staff park, and address issues as they arise. But we primarily rely on San Diego PD for enforcement if there are issues related to crime and things like that.
Awesome. I'm gonna read one question from the chat from Mr. David Cheng. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name. I wonder if the lighting could be upgraded to be driven by solar panels to encourage eco-friendliness.
Aaron, do you want to take that?
Sure. Hey, David. Yeah, you know, we've discussed this as a group, as part of our design team. So solar is something we're going to look at with Park and Rec. The big challenge, I suppose, with solar for this facility is that because there aren't any buildings or high electric use facilities, the lighting is really our big electric use at nighttime. And obviously the solar power is generated during the day. So it does require more than just the panels and sort of your direct electrical connections. There would have to be some sort of storage facility to store that power generated during the day and power those lights at night. But that is, we've heard that, you know, several times, that the community is very interested in solar. Obviously the city and Park and Rec are interested in solar and offsetting costs of electricity and, you know, doing the right thing for the environment. So we've heard that feedback, and we're going to work with Park and Rec and Schmidt to see where we can incorporate solar into the park anywhere possible.
Okay, well, I think that concludes our presentation, unless there's any other questions or comments.
We got one from Mariano. I will unmute you now.
Can you put up the email again so we can send additional questions out?
Yes, yes, I will. And I'll also paste it in the chat.
Thank you.
You want me to stop sharing?
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Justice. And Darren and Manny.
Thank you.
I'll speak on this too. Any unanswered questions, you can email those to our office, gramirezborge@sandiego.gov. And the meeting has been recorded, and we'll be uploading this to our Facebook site shortly, probably sometime later this afternoon. And the next meeting regarding Beyer Park will be the San Ysidro Advisory Group on February 11th at 6 p.m. We'll provide a Zoom link on our Facebook page as well once that's ready. And if you have any questions before then, you can also contact 619-424-0472. And with that, I think we're gonna call it. I want to thank the City Parks Department, Manny, Jeff, and Darren, also with Schmidt Design, for presenting today. Greatly appreciate you being here and taking the time. And thank you to every community member as well. And I'll have the council member say a few
Vivian
words.
wants to say something.
Yes,
Yep.
thank you. I've been trying to communicate. I just want to thank staff for your presentation, taking the time to be here with us. I also want to thank everybody who joined us from the community. We did this meeting on a Saturday, so you could be here with us today. But as you know, the work doesn't stop today. I want you to keep on track, keep us on our toes. Make sure you ask for updates and stay connected to our office regarding Beyer Park and San Ysidro as a whole. So thank you so much and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.